Welcome to Mentor's Corner. We have our guest for tonight, Daniel Yeung. He has been a long-term mentor for me for the last 15 years. When I was a new BA, he was the one who took the time to have one-on-ones with me. We would have walks. He would share his advice and thoughts with me. And I found that was the time when I grew a lot. He has continued doing this for other young professionals in his team. And also, some of them have already grown to be directors and VPs on their own right. Daniel is also volunteer mentor for new Canadians here in Canada to help them find a place in the Canadian workforce. So, Daniel, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to share some of your wisdom with us.
Thank you, Michelle. Happy to be here.
Yes. So, Daniel, let's just go quickly into the questions. So, one of the questions we'd like to ask is, what are some of the challenges that young and new professionals face in the Canadian workforce right now?
Yeah, when I say challenges, I can think of a few kind of top of mind. The first one is sort of networking, because when most young professionals come from either university or high school or colleges, and the academic setting is very different from the work setting. Academic setting is you get to pick what courses you take, you get to pick which professor you go with, and things like that. It's all well laid out. But in the workspace, when you're looking for a job or when you're already in a job, you're working for an organization, that clarity on what's next for you, what is available for you is not clear. So a lot of time that not knowing what is available to you, you really rely on having a strong network, like an academic advisor, but it's like a mentor for work, for the workspace. So a lot of young professionals, they don't have access and don't know who to reach out to get those type of advice. And often young professionals have managers also are very young. They might not be in position to provide the type of advice and guidance. So I think one area is a lack of the valuable network, not just how many people you know, is recognize that the type of resources that people know about organizational management, building career building, and things like that. And the other thing that I find that there's challenges faced by young professionals, this is more internal challenge within, because you have certain ideals in terms of who you want to be when you grow up, what you like to do and what you don't like to do. But when you come down to getting the job, again, it's not like an academic setting, it's very predictable. In the workplace, sometimes what you get to do every day, not everything is enjoyable, not everything is stimulating, because in the business world, often it's about maximizing the least work, but then maximize the value of the work that you do, so that you might not use a lot of intellectuals to do, intelligence required to do the job, but you have to do it repetitively over and over again. So a lot of time that is the reality versus what you desire, there's a gap. So it's very difficult for you to be motivated to go to work, because how often do you say, oh, it's Monday, I can't wait until Friday, or I can't wait until the next holidays. But to me, that's never really happened to me for years. It's all about, if you treat the workplace as a form of institution at university, if you treat the people in the workplace like different informal professor, teacher assistant, figure out there are resources to you to grow. But really all you need to find out is what it is that you want to do, what are the prerequisites to get there. But in your job, what it is that you can develop, and what is the next job that will develop the next skill that you need to get to where you want to be. So treat your organization or the wide network and personal network in a learning institution, because we don't get to the job that we want to do overnight. And often we actually don't know what we want to do right away, but it's through the try and error, through working for a role, working for a boss that you don't like, that you uncover what you really like. So from that perspective, I think these are the internalized challenges. It's about, I'm not happy, but really understand why you are not happy and how to make yourself engaged. But the other one is about not having a valuable network.
So that is true. I look back at my career, and it's the same thing. Like, it takes time to grow. It takes time to, and every place that I've worked with, I took something off away from it. Like, how do, even jobs that I've never enjoyed, I took some of it. How can I learn to deal with these types of people? What are some of the efficiencies I see? And if, like, you become a manager later on, it gives you empathy for the people under you, understanding how they work. If you want to be a leader, it's a very important skill and learning that you need to have. So another thing, Daniel, is what are some of the common mistakes you've seen us new professionals make over the years, and what are some of the things we can do to avoid it?
Um, Common mistakes, I would say, a few things that came to mind as well. One common mistake that I find young professional do a lot is we tend to overemphasize our personal contribution and achievement. So we hold on to the skills and then the things that we created and make this really big, versus we should prioritize what we've learned. Because let's be honest, if you are 1 year into workplace, the largest accomplishment you have in my organization, 35,000 people organization, the greatest accomplishment one can make in the first 2 years of the job is insignificant in the institution that large. But if you pivot your focus on that accomplishment, but really reflect on your contribution, your learning that lead to that as part of the journey to that accomplishment, you will gain more because you really focus on the success criteria. It's not about hitting a milestone, get a job done. That's one time I feel that those who are high achiever, they focus on completing the task as opposed to the learning and journey. The second one, in terms of people that may not be a high achiever, they may not be as goal oriented like yourself, Michelle. They're happy to do the job every day, repetitive. They are easy to be satisfied. They do what they were told, but a lot of time you do what you were told and you do it really well. But again, you haven't really looked into how do you expand the skill set while doing your job, because don't separate going to work is work. My personal life is my personal life. When you are still young, let's say maybe before you're married, before you have kids, before you have a mortgage, your financial obligation is not as high, so that you might prioritize your personal enjoyment. Go for play game, go for a run, go have drinks, and after work. But you really need to understand how to prioritize your time. It's not about what you do, it's about time is your assets. How do you prioritize the time? So don't spend 8 hours at work. Focus on completing tasks that you already know. Think about the investment you make in yourself, both at work and outside of work, that will get you into, either fast track you into the next role or plant the seed for your retirement down the road. The don't nickel and dime your boss, the company about because they only pay you this much and do just that, because they didn't tell you the environment they create for you is a learning environment. Take full advantage of it. And the other thing, the mistake that I find young people make when they look for jobs, new jobs, it's easy for us to be enticed into a big job title or a bigger job title. Or when you go through connection meeting with a manager, a lot of hiring manager, if they are in trouble, they cannot attract talent. They will tell you the future. This is where we're going, this is exciting, but they don't tell you the reality of today. So a lot of times I think young people make mistakes in terms of making quick decision because the future is friendly, but they are getting in a job for the reality, not knowing what the realities are. So they really kind of need to do your homework, get to really figure out every step that you made, that focus on the current realities, because that's your day-to-day life. But don't forget that there is a future you're working towards, so make sure there's a vision where you're going. Without connecting the two, sometimes you get stuck in the little hamster wheels because you never get out of the reality, or you focus so much in the future, you get frustrated because the reality is not the same. So that when every day you see the contradiction of reality versus the ideals, you become demotivated, and then it damages your own brand.
I totally agree with you, Daniel, because a lot of people, they invest in the title, they invest in the salary, but what you forget is you're investing in yourself. Wherever you go in your career, that's the investment that will stay with you. Whatever skills you learn, whatever experience you've learned, that's what will grow, will keep with you. When you become a senior, like 10 years later, all of the things, it's not the salary or the titles that will stay. It's learning and the skills.
I absolutely in the first 5 to 10 years in the career, there's always a balance between earning and learning. You need to prioritize your learning. It's like a passive investment strategy. The larger your asset base, the more income you earn in the future. But when you don't have much saving now, focus on learning. It's like saving, because I think that when you start jumping for title after title, but every job you go to that does not offer learning, expanding your skill, there comes a point people look at you, what skill do you have after 10 years of working? So I think it's really balancing the learning first, earning will come. But there comes a point that when you have family and more financial obligation, then you would might prioritize. This is when I focus on earning, then learning might take a back seat, and then later on in your career, then you might go back to learn more because it's sustaining your career. So I think that is something that people really focus on. What can I learn from this job? What can I gain from this job? And money will come eventually in the long run. So I don't get too pigeonholed into one, because if you get into a really big title, very big job that offers little responsibility for you to learn, and you become so choosy that you actually will walk away from opportunities that actually give you true learning. So
That is true. So we have a few minutes left. Maybe any resources that you would recommend to new or young professionals, and also any last words that you'd like to give.
well, there are quite a bit of resources. I'm not a good book reader, but one book that I do say that is good. It resonates with me. Is called the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Manager. It's one of the coffee books, and because it really speaks to you, the things that you have control, and speak to your behavior. Because if like you might not always be lucky that someone will give you an opportunity. You might not be lucky that you have a boss that will be teaching you. But it's important that you have established a set of behavior that put your position to learn and to collaborate, to make friends, and also continuous improvement. So I think that that book kind of resonate with me quite a bit now, because all you have the established habits and good behavior. When you run into the right opportunity, the right boss, the right mentors or champions, then you unleash the potential of yours. But if you don't come with a set of discipline, even the best opportunities in front of you, it will just flounder. So I really think that's one. But the other thing that is have a very diverse interest in your source of news or knowledge. And we tend to pigeonhole ourselves into things that are of our own interest. It's not about the work, it's not about study of the word study, it's about really broaden your frame of reference. So I would say that I have a wide varieties of podcasts that I listen to, like from BBC News, the world news, not just local news, to HBR idea cast about leadership, to Pivot and LinkedIn. These are the more opinion cast about by leading thought leaders in the Silicon Valleys, but also for economics, people that think differently. So the reason I go into all this listening is because there's nothing to do with my job. I'm in healthcare, because I get that knowledge today. If I spend more time outside of work focusing on in healthcare, and then I'll pigeonhole myself into just one domain of expertise, which is nothing wrong with that. But when you have a diverse set of interests, especially when you're still young, often you'll come across people that you're networking with. They have different interests, so you can be more relatable. And the other thing is, there's certain podcasts and certain source and news will help you think differently. Like another book that yesterday, one of my committee people talk about lateral thinking. Young people are very technical. You can solve any skill that are predefined way to solving problem, but to be a lateral thinker means you have to be creative, be innovative. And that book is actually something that is really good for you because, again, you are good at what you do. I guarantee you there's another 400,000 young people just like you. So how do you differentiate yourself from the rest? Just think differently, laterally. So that's why these are the resources that broaden your scope. If you happen to be a student still in your third or fourth year university, you're getting your 4.0 GPA, think about taking, if you're in science or technology courses, think about taking social science elective, psychology or social science, different type of classes. But if you're outside of the degree, think about taking, computer science and some kind of technical course, because it switch from the dominant thinking from left to right, the brain, or the right to left. Again, it help by think about your life today, the type of person you are, invest 2-5% of the time to be slightly different. Give your brain a rest, but also allow you to be open to different perspective. And in the long run, it just makes you more relatable.
That's very good advice, Daniel. I remember when we were at TELUS, we had this personality test, and they shared with us the results of our tests of our VPs and CEO, and it showed that they could flex their personality types based on their audience. Like a lot of us at the lower levels, at the staff level, we were all like one personality type, but they were able to flex it there to relate to the people that they're leading. So it is a good skill.
Yeah, a habit take a long time to cultivate. So start when you are younger. Don't wait until you see a job requirement. Then when you kind of scramble trying to take a course to do it, it doesn't work that way. That's why I think having regular habits to kind of flex your brain, your behavioral muscle, the earlier you practice, the better. I talked to my niece this morning on the way to school. She's quiet. She won't say a word in the class. And frankly, you would not notice that she even exists. But I said to her, you're going to university in 2 years. There's an opportunity for you to change your brand, but start today. I'll guarantee you, the moment you raise your hand to ask one question or even make one comment in class, because you've been quiet for the entire semester, that one question will turn head. The professor said, where you come from, I never seen you. But those are the little things that you do by practice. One question at a time will turn you as an introvert into an outgoing person. But sometimes as an extroverted person, because you're so good at presenting and talking, sometimes resist the urge of say, I agree. I want to top up, pause and listen, or maybe promote your friend knowing they have a good idea, introvert, and promote ask the question, and what do you have in terms of your opinion? Change the way you behave, little minor change that you make, it will be noticed. It's an effort, but then gradually you become very seamless in terms as a leaders. You should be able to read the room that quickly identify who are the outgoing and not so outgoing people. How do you make yourself relatable? How do you pull them out of the shell and create a safe environment for them to express themselves? If leadership is what you want, start now. But if you just want to be a technical person, programmers need to be a behavioral scientist today, so that start learning more social science.
That is true. So thank you very much, Daniel. This is very good advice for everybody in our audience right now. One last thought, just picked up from Daniel. You have the time. Start while you are younger. Start learning, because this is the ideal time for you to start growing and learning and assimilating all of that stuff. Thank you, everybody. And I guess that concludes our broadcast for today.
Thank you, Michelle.